Another day, another new palette. Okay, today is Makeup by Mario. We still have Pat McGrath's holiday palette. We still have Anastasia's Embers palette, Danessa's Lightwork 7. There's rumors there could be a Natasha palette coming closer to Christmas. And there's potential for a Prada quad. Okay. So when it rains, it pours, and then we'll get to December and there won't be any new releases really. So I guess we should accept it while we have it. Today we have the new Makeup by Mario palette. This is the Ethereal Eyes Nature palette. And so what we're going to do today is a couple of looks, swatches, and I'll give you my review and thoughts on this palette. So if that sounds good to you, then please like, subscribe, follow along, and shop my links. It's Unsolicited Advice on Instagram and on YouTube. Okay, so I'm not a Makeup by Mario person. I don't have any products really by Makeup by Mario. The only products I've ever purchased are the 3 Ethereal Eyes palettes. Now, if you recall, this was the original Ethereal Eyes palette, and it came out in 2021, I believe. No, 2022. And then they re-released it in 2023 at the holidays. And it was just a really beautiful, natural palette with very refined, shimmery, glimmery toppers. Really popular, therefore they had to re-release it. And then last year in 2024, they came out with Ethereal Eyes Midnight, which was kind of the cooler companion piece to the original palette. This one really leaned into the blues, the grays, the mauves, same beautiful formulas, very blendable, easy mattes, and these really ethereal, as it should be, gorgeous kind of toppers and metallics. This year's entry is Nature, which really leans into the greens and burgundies and browns that are found in nature. You can see that a lot of the mattes are similar. They may be toned a little bit warmer, but the shimmers are quite different. They're greens and beiges and champagnes. Now, I'm going to insert the swatches here, and it is a beautiful palette. That green in the center, well, actually, the shimmers in this palette are quite beautiful. You'll see in the swatch video. But I did notice something, and so I wanted to do a little check right now and see. The original 2 palettes, manufactured in the USA, assembled in the Dominican Republic. The first one was manufactured in the USA, assembled in the Dominican Republic. And this one is made in the USA. I don't know if they have a slightly different formula, but I noticed that kind of that smooth, silky glide that the original 2 had was not necessarily in this palette. And although they're sparkly and very beautiful, there was something a little different about this palette, and I don't know really how to describe it. I guess what I can do is grab a shade from the first palette, and this is going to be gray, shade 6. And it has a very liquidy, creamy, metallic feel. It feels slippy. It's not creamy in the sense of like those Pat McGrath Quints or like an Adept Cosmetics. But it does have a creamy kind of slip and feel, and it gives it that glassy finish. And I'm going to grab a similar color from this year's, and it feels nice. And it does wear nicely, but it doesn't have that same sheen or reflectivity. And it does feel a little bit drier or more powdery. It feels almost like an ABH shadow. And that's not a dig, because I really like the ABH 12 pans and then the little 9 pans they've come out with lately. And of course they have a new one coming. But it just feels a little bit drier or different, like there was maybe a manufacturer difference. I'm going to grab a similar shade from Moonlight just to show you. Well, this is actually going to be quite a bit darker. But there's just more shine and reflectivity. I don't know if there was some sort of change. But again, that's just on swatches. So we really don't know until we get them on the eyes. And so I think that's what we'll do now. So I'm going to pull you in a little bit closer. Ooh. And I have just put some concealer and powdered my eyes. I didn't do a primer today because I wanted us to see it, you know, the way it would look at its most natural. So let me grab the new Mario Nature palette. And I guess what we're going to have to do is do a look that kind of leans into the burgundies, browns, and golds, and then a look that kind of leans into the greens and kind of that mossy sage color. So I think what we'll do is do the first look with sort of these, and maybe this kind of bottom row with obviously some of these in the inner corner, and then the next look we'll do with kind of this more green centered row. And Mario shadows are just numbered 1 through 12. So I'll just call out the numbers as I use them if I remember. And so what I'm going to do is grab a refer number 16, and I want to put down a nice base. I'm going to grab shadow number 8. It is pigmented, and there's quite a bit of kickback, so I'm just going to dust off my brush a little. But I'm going to put this down in the crease. And it is a nice transition color, as you can see. There's pigment. There's a lot of pigment, I'll give it that. Okay, that gives a nice wash. That color is not far off from my skin color. I'm going to run a little bit of that. It's kind of an olivey color under as well. And that was shade 9, or excuse me, shade 8, which is right here. So now I want to deepen things up. So I'm going to go to shade number 9 now, this one right here, and put this on the outer portion. These mattes feel quite nice. They're very powdery, but they're easy to blend. I think where I noticed the difference was really with the shimmers. They just don't seem as impactful for some reason. And they seem just a little bit drier. Not that that's a bad thing. Okay. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush because one thing I did notice when I was swatching was that this deep brown number 12 down here is extremely pigmented. And I'm just going to put that in the outer corner, but keep it really tight in there. This will be kind of the smokier burgundy look. And you know, this would make a beautiful liner too. You could do it with just a little bit of water and get a really detailed liner. Or if you just use a small brush, you could get something that was a little bit less, you know, defined. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is grab this kind of burgundy rust color here, which is number 11, and I'm going to grab that on my finger. You can see, it should be easy to get off, but there was just a little bit of fallout. This is just a metallic, but it doesn't feel particularly creamy. It does feel a little bit drier. So I want to find something that's like high shine and high sparkle to do on the inner portion. So I'm going to grab shade number 6, which is right here. It's actually that shade that I swatched a second ago. And I'm going to put that on the inner third. That shade has more impact. That's quite pretty. I think that the burgundy shade is just kind of a regular metallic, but a nice one. It looks like maybe the two on the bottom here are just kind of regular metallics, and these are kind of the more special shades. Okay, so we need something on the inner corner to lighten that up. So I'm gonna grab my Refer number 21, and I'm gonna grab shade number 2, which is the warmer of the two sort of inner eye color. And I'm just gonna place this right here, and that, as you can see, does a nice job of brightening. Both of these colors should be very good for brightening, at least on my skin tone. And I'll run a little bit of that color under the brow as well. So we'll come back in a second and put, see, there's a little bit of fallout. We'll come back in a second and put liner and lashes on with it, but that is a pretty look. I get why they're calling it the Nature palette, because it really is. I'm going to try to take a little bit more of shade number 6, but I'm just going to tap it just to get that kind of scattered look and see if we can amp that up. Okay, it does add dimension to that metallic, so that I quite like. You can see that did add a good amount of sparkle. Okay, on the other eye, we're going to lean into the greens and golds. So I'm going to grab a Refer number 16. Actually, I'm just going to dust off the one I did. And on this eye, I'm going to lean into shade number 5, which is kind of a peachy salmon color. It reminds me of a color in Moonlight I like a lot. You can see this one's got more pigment. A lot of palettes this year, well, up until this last portion of the year, were really about sort of subtle pigments. We've certainly had some lately that have really kicked it up. The new Pat McGrath, Chanel, who would have ever thought I would say that? But this kind of leans into that trend from the first part of the year. Okay, that is a beautiful color. Number 3 here is a sage green, and I think it's just a metallic. It looks like it maybe has a slight duochrome in it, but I'm going to place that here on the outer half of my lid. It's pretty. Now this is the star of the show, even from swatching, shade number 7 here. So I'm going to grab this, and this one does have that slippy feel. Maybe it's just that there's less of these in this palette. There's really only 2, maybe 3 in this palette that had that slippy feel that was so frequent in the first 2 palettes. But this color, incredible. And this feels so much slicker. Maybe it was just a conscious choice to make this one less kind of sparkly, because you obviously can get something very everyday with that. That's a really pretty color though. And there's a good amount of shine there. For the inner portion, I'm gonna grab, just to try out the colors, let's try shade 7. This one feels kind of slick too. So I think it's just maybe that there's less of those in this palette. Now for the inner corner, I'm going to grab shade 1, which this is actually a matte, but it has a couple of little gold sparkles in it. So it's pretty for this kind of purpose. And that's a perfect kind of inner color for me, as you see with my skin tone. So if you're similar to me in skin tone, I think you'd really like that. I'm just going to cut that a little bit because I want this to be a little bit brighter on that corner. I'm going to take my Refer 21 and just grab a little bit of that green color, number 7. Is it 7? 8, sorry. And run that along this down here. Just incorporate a little bit of it. And finally, I'm going to grab a little bit of number 1 again and just put it under the brow. Okay, the last thing I want to do on this look is show you that deep dark brown, but as a liner. So I'm going to grab a Refer, I don't use this one much, but I'm going to grab Refer number 28, and I'm going to show you, this is a stamping liner brush. That's a very pigmented brown. You can get a, yeah, you can see there, you get it real detailed. And if I wanted it to be even more perfect, I would just try it with water. But that looks really pretty. I would say a number 12 here and number 5 here are kind of the star mattes in this palette. Although that first one worked really well too for the inner color. So that does work beautifully as a liner. So what I'm going to do is throw on some brown mascara. Mario does have one, but like I said, these are the only 3 products I have from Makeup by Mario. It's never been a brand that I've really enjoyed, but I really do like these. But I'm going to throw on some brown Lash Clash from YSL, and I'm going to throw a brown liner in, and then we'll come back and talk about final thoughts and take a look at the completed project. Okay, bye. Okay, so we're back now. I threw on brown liner and brown mascara. Just choose your favorites. Lisa Eldridge has a great one. YSL has kind of the classic, but Tower 28 has a very nice one too. And then brown liners, you can use Valentino, YSL, Victoria Beckham, Pat McGrath's Black Coffee is kind of the OG, Lisa Eldridge as well with her Burnt Umber. And then I threw on a new lipstick just to show you a new color. I don't think this is new, it's just a new color to me. And it's the Eliza Ginger from Gucci Beauty. Kinky Sweat, Alicia Archer. I saw showing this off the other day, and I thought it was a really pretty fall color that has a lot of orange in it, and I thought it would look really well with, or look really nice with this. So what do we think? I mean, overall, I think these are really beautiful. I think that the fact that there are 2 or 3 of those slippy kind of ethereal shades from the first 2 palettes in there proves that there must have just been a decision this year to make it more different than the first 2 and to put more base on the shadows and to have more kind of standard metallics. The mattes worked really well. That liner shade looked beautiful. They just don't have that same kind of glossy ethereal shine that the first 2 palettes had. I think that must have been an effort. Like, this is still beautiful, don't get me wrong. They're both beautiful, but neither one of them had that super duper glossy shine that the first ones had. But you know, if it's a palette that's supposed to be nature inspired, then that might be the goal. I think they both look really beautiful. I think if you have the first 2 ethereal eyes, then this makes a nice addition because it introduces some shades that aren't in there. But I think if you have a large eyeshadow collection, you could probably achieve something similar, because the thing that always made me pick up the ethereal eyes palettes was that they had something a little different. The shimmers just looked a little different than others. not really better or worse, just different. And these are more similar to shimmers found in like an ABH or like the regular metallic formula of Natasha Denona, which is great, but it's not that high shine foiled sort of look. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. It's just different, and I wonder why change something when the first two sold out so fast and did so well for the brand. What do you think? I'd love to hear your feedback. So again, if you like this kind of content, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and follow along. Unsolicited advice on YouTube and Instagram, and shop my links. It helps my channel and doesn't cost you anything, but it really does help. Makeup by Mario, Ethereal Eyes Nature. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.